Hey, it's the ZERØ show after Christmas special Markdown Blowout Extravaganza savings event. Everything must go!
Let's see, another gentleman who has a name that I also considered for my firstborn. His name is Zero Skull.
You might read a story, you might travel through time, you might save the day or commit a crime. You never know on the ZERØ show, the ZERØ show, the ZERØ show.
Hey everybody out there, by which of course I mean you. Whew. This is my after Christmas special for 2022, but it's already 2023. It's like already January 7, 2023. So I guess I'm a bit late with this. Yeah. Lots of stuff kept happening, lots of stuff kept going wrong. I have a new Ziggy Smôx sequence, the next part of the Time for Recess animation. I'll put a link to the previous in the description. I got two parts of it. I got one put together and it went together really well. I got all the correct audio and everything. And then I put the second one together and have only just now realized that I put the wrong audio in. I used the original test audio instead of the finalized audio. The character Skeleton Handset, in the finalized version, he talks like this. He has a very slow and intense speaking voice. Whereas originally it was just me talking with a low voice. And so it's going to transition from the one voice to the other for Skeleton Handset. I was really trying to figure out how to voice a skeleton and make it seem believable, friendly, and kind of scary, I guess, because it's a skeleton who just happens to be the district attorney. So that's going to look a little bit weird. I also went to the museum. They had a MAURICE SENDAK show going, so I got about 15 minutes of footage from that I spliced together and made a tour of the museum. Also, Professor Dr. Brian Keating, UC San Diego, Associate Director of the Arthur C. Clarke Center for Human Imagination, asked one of my questions to Lord Martin Reese, who is one of the greatest thinkers, humanists. I asked a question that basically asks essentially about the value of being alive, of striving for a future of humanity. What is life for and all that? What are we hoping to achieve? And I was able to pass that question along to Professor Keating, and he then asked Martin Reese. Martin Reese answered him for me. I took that audio, which is not great audio, and put it together with an animation sequence. I was able to build, do I have it right? No, I don't have it right there. Where did I put that? Huh. I was able to build a miniature of Brian Keating and a miniature of Martin Reese. No, that's not right there. And so I was able to then animate them, and of course it's just one professorial figure speaking to another professorial figure, and that's not necessarily particularly interesting to animate. So I did a little playing around. It's not like super exciting, it's not a ridiculous thing, but I did put some little gags and special effects in there because, I mean, it's animation, stop motion. You can do anything with stop motion if you have the time and patience. And I have the patience and I have the time, but I don't always have them both at the same time. And I don't always, and I'm not always able to work at the same qualitative level every time. So this is kind of a bit, so that'll look a bit cheesier than the Time for Recess segment. And then I've got a thing about Will Scarlet. That'll actually probably wind up in the next episode, but I just like looked up Will Scarlet, and it seems that there isn't really any information about him aside from the fact that he famously wears red, is famously a dandy, likes to wear very fancy clothes, is a skilled swordsman, has been war counsel to Robin Hood, and that's pretty much it. That'll probably be in the next episode, but I'll try to stuff it into this one. I'm still in the process of like figuring out how it's all going together. And yeah, thanks for tuning in for the after New Year's, after Christmas special Markdown Blowout Extravaganza super savings event. Everything must go. So let's get on with the show.
Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic.
Welcome, everybody out there in the wide world of astrophysics, cosmology, philosophy, and really an understanding. Anyone who has an understanding and a desire to know more about our natural world and the place that science holds within it, you're in for a treat. Talking to a great friend, not only of a UCSD science and other phenomena, but really a hero of mine and many of the most proficient, I would say, working theorists and cosmology really look to Martin, Lord Martin Reese, today's guest, for inspiration and for really a voice of reason in continually troubled age. So Lord Martin, thank you so much for joining us from the UK. How are you today, sir?
I'm fine. It's great to be in touch with you again.
It is, and I love all of your books. I've read all of your books. You blurbed one of my books. Today is Nobel Prize Day. Week kicks off. I call it Christmas for Nerds, and we both have perspectives on it, including in this book. And it's just such an honor, Martin, to speak with you. But I want to do what I'm told that you should never do, which is to judge a book by its cover. You're just not supposed to do that. It's considered poor form. But I always say, what else do you have to go on besides the cover and the title? And so I always ask my authors who honor me by coming on the podcast, I ask them, as I ask you now, what was the genesis, the origin story behind this magnificently illustrated cover, but more importantly, behind the title that you chose for this wonderful new book. So, Martin, if you could indulge us in what I call judging books by their covers.
Well, I am going to escape my answer by saying that both of them were chosen by my editor.
That's about 80% of the time I hear that answer.
Right, yes. I was not so sure about the title, but I think a plain cover is okay.
Yeah.
So I'm not unhappy with it.
Very good. So the next one is coming from a listener, viewer on YouTube who goes by a name that I almost chose for one of my children, and that is Zero Skull.
That's me.
Zero Skull asks a very long question. So pro tip for my listeners out there, if you want to have a high shot at asking your question, me asking it, make it short, because I can't read this whole thing. But he says, what exactly is meant by save us and save the world? Save us in what way? Save us from who? Save us for what reasoned purpose? Why not just ride it to the end and counter to frost, go gently into the good night? So what are we saved from by science?
Well, I think most of us do care about the survival of the human species, and my concern is that for the first time in this century, there are realistic scenarios whereby the misuse of science could lead to a collapse of civilization. And we certainly have a bumpy ride through the century because of the misuse of science by bad actors. So I think we are going through a difficult century. And being a human being myself, I certainly feel that our species deserves to survive and to do better in future centuries. But more than that, I think we should value the entire biological environment that we are in. and avoid mass extinctions. And we are risking those. And I quote in my book the great ecologist E.O. Wilson, who says, if human actions cause mass extinctions, it's the sin that future generations will least forgive us for. So we want to make sure that there are future generations and that they are forgiving, because we have helped not ourselves to survive only, but also the natural world to survive.
Very, very good. Well, Lord Martin, this has been a tremendous honor as usual for me. I want to thank you so much for sharing your time with me and my audience today, and I hope we can be in person. Maybe I'll come visit you next year when I visit the UK for the first time in 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, it's not that bad here.
Maybe I can poach you, Martin. I mean, come on, we've got great beaches. I know you like to surf, and we've feted you in the past, and we'll do it again. Lord Martin Reese, thank you so much.
Bye. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic.
Hey, I'm ZERØ School in Columbus, Ohio. I've got my Legend of Zelda Game & Watch console. When you turn it on, the Triforce in the back lights up. And I've been playing Legend of Zelda. I decided to play what's probably among one of the hardest ways to play. The hardest way to play is No Sword, 3 Hearts. In that version, you cannot actually win the game because you need a sword to defeat Ganon at the end. So anyway, you see I've got no jewelry, no rings, no bracelet. I've got the silver arrow. I've just hit Ganon 4 times with my sword. I am Green Link. I'm about to fire my silver arrow at Ganon and defeat him, and then we're going to see Green Princess Zelda. The colors of everybody, or the colors of Link and Zelda, are tied to the color of the ring that he has. You can see, I think, yes, you can see that my bowstring is still green. And boom! Defeated Ganon while green. And then we go up through the final door, and there's Princess Zelda in a green dress. Bing! Thanks, Link. You're the hero of Hyrule. And that's it. Finally, peace returns to Hyrule. The end. And I think I'm going to do a series on how to play Zelda. In fact, I'm definitely going to do that, yeah. And it will be called How to Play Zelda Like You Own It. I'm here at the Columbus Museum of Art, and they're doing a Maurice Sendak show. Maurice Sendak, as you probably know, is most famous for his story and artwork for Where the Wild Things Are. The object here is called a tensegrity. It's made of tubes that are bound together by wires, and each wire is putting an equal amount of force on every part of the object, and that is what's holding it together. Tensegrity is a portmanteau of tensile and integrity. Tensile integrity. Tensegrity. Anyone who is interested in this type of shape can go ahead and look up tensegrity, T-E-N-S-E-G-R-I-T-Y, and learn how to build them. They're really neat. Wood horse. It looks much more like a sketch of a horse than of a model of a horse, and I think that's adorable. It's from 1934, and you might say, well, that's not very good. It looks like a small child drew it. Well, it was drawn by a small child. This is by 6-year-old Maurice SENDAK. And it says, it's signed Murray SENDAK. Maurice SENDAK's home studio. This is a piece by Grimm, by Ludwig Grimm. And then this is SENDAK for Grimm's Fairy Tales. From Dear Millie. And apparently he lifted this concept from this Carl Wilhelm Kolbe, large plant next to an arbor with woman and basket. And you can really see how he gathered, like you've got the children looking away, and then up here you've got the child looking away. And it's the same basic design. Frames from outside over there. This was commissioned by Robert Redford when he hired Maurice SENDAK to be the artistic director of the Sundance Children's Theater. And then here's his Mozart. And then here's a childish young Mozart creating music as only a child could. And a poster for the Magic Flute. Designed for the New York City Opera's production of Mozart's Goose of Cairo. And then here is the thing itself, which I'm going to say is 12, 15 feet tall. Yeah. And then we come back to SENDAK, to SENDAK's Mozart and his dog. Created based on SENDAK's work by Amy Lukenbach. Fantasy sketch, Boy in a Ship. And of course it comes back to Little Nemo. And it comes back to Little Nemo. This one is called Fish Boy. And it concludes with the boy shooting his mother because she spanked him. Through the Looking Glass. A hole is too big. Study for the cover, and again, it's so small. The original title page. From Kenny's Window. Original cover artwork. And apparently Maurice SENDAK found a great deal of joy in just drawing everything that he was working on at any given time. And so you've got characters from numerous disparate stories all coming together, interacting in their own ways. disregarding each other, only to act with those in their stories. Higgledy piggledy pop. And it apparently gets its design from this horse frightened by a lion. And then here's another from Higgledy Piggledy Pop. And so he isn't just creating his own world, he is lifting from the masters to create modern art out of the classics. But he wasn't the only one who did this. We see we've also got Little Nemo in Slumberland, which of course is one of the things that his stories and artwork tend to return to. And that's a newspaper print, and here is the original, which is really awesome. And then we've got the boy in the night kitchen falling down and returning to bed, which you'll recall from that Little Nemo piece. How Things Are, which is surely his most beloved work. You know that thing. Oh yes, and apparently that dog is not Max's dog, it's Maurice Sendak's dog. And there's that bed again. Back to Little Nemo in Slumberland. There's the original piece from the parade and Where the Wild Things Are. And then there's the finished piece. And the little Victorian theater stage. That's the original. Here is a print. New York is book country, baby. And apparently that is based on this King Kong image. And as you're probably aware, there's a movie version of Where the Wild Things Are. And here's a physical costume from that and Max's pajamas. Sendak was unsatisfied with the look of the works in the book, the print, Where the Wild Things Are. So he made this color separation. There it is with just black and white. And it would overlay on top of this, and then you put them together, and you'd get this. Understanding Atoms. And these are all very small. You can see my hand, like that's a really small piece. And this is a storyboard for L'Enfance et les Sauterelles. And this is a storyboard for Higgledy Piggledy Pop. And there's that dog again. And this is an album cover for Levine conducts Mahler's Symphony No. 3. And you can see that the figures posed are based on this Samuel Palmer St. Paul landing in Italy. Hello, machine. Gosh. And you can just see the poses of these figures. And then we've got this woodblock engraving, Descent into Lindo by Andrea Mantegna from about 1475. And then we can compare it to We Are All in the Dumps with Jack and Guy. And you can see that he's just lifting the masters and turning them into his masterworks. And then here's panels from We Are All in the Dumps. Which was done with Art Spiegelman. Art Spiegelman, who you'll know as the artist who created MAURICE. The Miami Giant. Sugar Beet's Wedding. Portrait of Herman Melville as Captain Ahab. More stuff of pertaining to Herman Melville and his life. And that one's about 3 feet tall. I think 9-10 feet long. It is a print from a mural. En Louis engraved by R.H. Cromek. It's Anthony and Cleopatra. And then we've got watercolor and pencil and paper by SENDAK, recreating these vintage images. And then here we've got a reclining person being visited by a nightmare, which that horse there is a nightmare, which is a puka animal that would chase sleepers and drag them to their drowning or hanging deaths. And then there's a incubus there. And then over here we've got this giant bird attacking this lady. It's an owl, of course. And then Maurice Sendak took those two and put them together to create this image of a sleeper being attacked by nightmares. The Moon Jumpers. Mr. Rabbit and the Lovely President. And then here is a William Blake of Oberon and Titania on a lily. And then we have Sendak for Idomeneo. And apparently he was working on this when he died, the idea of a person with no nose. And then back here, there's nothing. the museum just ends. There's just this long, empty, blank hall.
Walter, Danube, Foge. Gotta get it in your throat. Foge.
Mr. Foge,
Yeah, that's it. Maybe you will get it in the throat.
I beg your pardon?
What's that you've said?
I beg your pardon.
Once more, please.
I beg your pardon. Are you, Walter Danube Foge?
Yes, that's it. That's what you said. If not, it was certainly something like that. Nearly identical, but ever so slightly different, perhaps. Can I ask you a question?
Certainly.
Well, here goes. What's the difference between a duck?
A duck?
A duck.
Why a duck?
Why not? What's the difference?
Between a duck.
That's the line. You just think on that one for me. Now, what can I do for you? I received this letter from you in the mail.
Wait.
It's all the mail I've gotten in some while, and it says that I need to come here. I hope it's not bad news. I hate bad news, and I love mail. If it were bad news, it might entirely displace the excitement and joy I gained from receiving a letter in the mail, utterly diminishing my quality of living. And it was an invitation at that. How exciting. Oh, it's a grand old party. I do hope I win the door prize, but what can I do for you?
Please, wait. Please. Just a moment. Where is that clerk? Just a moment.
I'll just be wondering about that duck.
Oh, yes. It's quite a riddle. Here it is. Now, wait a second. You say your name is pronounced Froge?
Walter Danube Foge.
Well, it's spelled F-R-O-G here.
Yes, that's right.
What the? When? Oh no! When? No!
Well, how can it be pronounced Froge if it's spelled frog?
Well, I wasn't there at the time, so I couldn't say for sure, but maybe there should be an umlaut over the O and a soft diacritic over the G. Maybe, just maybe it was a French frog. Pardon my French, but somebody had to say it, and it may as well have been me who did. It is my name, after all. Alors, bonjour, c'est fumé les chines avec la chatte de singe. Tu valise je de la manger. Je n'en parle fond. Au revoir.
Hey, you, what are you doing there? That's my food. Where's the donut? Put that down. Stop eating my food. There. There. Who are you? Tell me your name. Look, you had better tell me your name, or I'll have the bailiff put you in irons.
Hey, don't you ask any questions of him. Are you deaf? He says he can't speak.
Who are you?
Me? I'm who you're talking to.
He wants to know your name.
No, he asked who I am, and that's some deep existential stuff, like who am I over what am I? Am I the place I am in, or do I exist as a construct outside the space and time of places, and thus being free to interact with them as I will it, and also to leave them behind at will? And who am I? Asleep, not interacting with the world. And am I in a place if I don't experience it?
Let me ask you something. Is that is?
That is.
It is it?
It is.
So it is so that is?
That is so.
So it is. He seems to understand basic logic.
I don't quite follow you.
See, that is, that is, which is, as it is, as that is, and that is. So, that is so. So, that is that is so. So, that is so. Oh, who are you? Me? I'm myself, I think. It seems, usually. Though sometimes it does feel like I'm an entity existing as the place I am in, rather than a transient entity passing through.
Just tell me your name.
See?
Huh. My name's, Rolando Spinaci.
Rolando Spinaci. Your name's not here. You shouldn't be here.
No, I'm not on your menu. I'm a special item. I don't come a la carte, as the French say.
Well then, what are you doing here?
Hey, as interested as I am in his autobiography, I came here to be courted and it's me you should be courting. And besides, I have better French jokes.
What? Wait a moment, please. I have to deal with these gentlemen.
Who are you calling gentlemen? We're tough guys with lots of scurvy.
I meant it as a compliment.
So I've got these 3 Robin Hood Prince of Thieves trading cards. Got Guy of Gisborne, Robin Hood, Hero of the Ages, which I'm pretty sure is the most sought card in the series because it's just very cinematic and gorgeous, and Will Scarlet. The evil Guy of Gisborne. While Robin was off fighting in the Crusades, England's good King Richard has also been out of the country. In his absence, the evil Sheriff of Nottingham and his henchman, Guy of Gisborne, have brought a new reign of terror down on the poor people of England. Robin Hood, Hero of the Ages. Realizing that he cannot defeat the sheriff's army with brute force alone, Robin Hood once again devises a plan using trickery to free his captured men and rescue the fair maid Marian. And then the Will Scarlet card. Young Christian Slater plays the hot-headed teenage woodsman Will Scarlet. Slater is a veteran of such films as Heathers, Name of the Rose, Young Guns 2, and Pump Up the Volume. So that's weird. These 2 cards tell about the story, and this card tells about the actor who plays the character. Why is there so little information about Will Scarlet? Well, I, of course, went ahead and did some research, and this is what I found. Who was Will Scarlet? Oh. I did this pencil illustration with the dialogue. You get your mud on me, I get your blood on me, and it won't show, because I'm dressed in red. And I quote that to Will Scarlet, though I made it up myself, and that is my interpretation of what Will Scarlet probably would have looked like. So who was Will Scarlet? In ye olde England in the 14th through from the dawn of time and up through the 19th century and on into about half the 20th century, there were no videos and no television broadcasts at all. Sure, there were plays, but to see a play one must hire actors and rehearse them to put on a show, and then the show must go on. Storytellers and even book readers were highly sought because everyone needed some kind of entertainment, and most people were illiterate unless they really needed to know how to read for their job. People would even read newspapers for each other in a way that probably resembled modern news anchors reciting from teleprompters. A ballad is a rhyming way to tell a story and pass information verbally that is a more efficient and memorable way than simply sharing bland sentences. You probably can't recite your favorite short story, but you can probably recite your favorite poem or the lyrics to your favorite song. If you're over 30, you can probably recite the Ballad of Jed Clampett, whether you like it or not. In the second half of the 19th century, from about 1855 till 1900, English scholar Francis Child collected and compiled into 5 volumes many historical British ballads, including 33 about Robin Hood. Child collected many ballads, but he did not collect all Old English ballads or even all the ballads about Robin Hood, as there is one alluded to in Shakespeare's Henry IV, which includes the line, "And Robin Hood, Scarlet, and John," but that line does not appear in any that Child collected. Some of the preserved ballads are fragmentary, being taken from damaged books, and all the original ballads were passed orally before ever being written down, so inconsistencies and omissions should be expected to arise when the surviving ballads were eventually compiled. In modern English, scarlet means a deep red color, but in 1300, when the earliest ballads were first collected in print, scarlet referred to an expensive thick fabric that would retain dyes very well, and which was often dyed red. It did not refer to the color or hue of the dye, nor to any amount of redness or lack thereof. Will Scarlet is a constant companion to Robin Hood, beginning in the earliest ballads, and though Robin Hood and Little John have very distinct personalities, Will Scarlet is a rather boring, tough guy character who wears nice clothes, and whose sole purpose is to stand by and act as a bodyguard and sometimes war counsel to Robin. He seems to be an ex-soldier who went rogue through the cruel reign of Prince John and Guy of Gisborne. He is also named to be Robin's nephew, young Will Gambrel, the lost son of the Earl of Maxfield. The lame qualities of his personality may stem from a lack of consensus as to who he was, and if he was even a real person. The name Will Scarlet is prominent in the historical ballads, but so are other similar names that may be nominative misappropriations carried over from oral tradition, getting scrambled through retellings, or they may be distinct individuals whose origins within the mythos may have never been written down, and so they are lost to time. To understand what is meant by different characters with similar names, in the old ballads we do have Will Scarlet, but also Will SCARLET, Will Scarloke, Will Scarlock, Will Shakelock, Will Scaylock, Will Scadlock, Will Scavelock, Will Scaredlock, Will Scarelock, Will Scurlock, Will Sherlock, and more. And it is unclear of just who each individual may refer to, or if they refer to the same person with the names confused, as they were told across generations, or even told from one storyteller to another, or they may have been adjusted to match a meter or rhyme in a specific ballad. For all we know, in the earliest oral traditions there may have been a whole named band of individual merry men with complex backstories, but if they ever existed, it would have been in spoken form, and it seems they must simply be lost to history and condensed into this multiplicity of Will Scars. The earliest surviving ballad is The Guest of Robin Hood, which features the characters of Little John, Much the Miller's Son, and Will Scarloke seeking a guest to join Robin for dinner. But the piece ends with a mention of Scathelock, who had not previously been introduced. By then the year was all agone, he had no man but twain, Lytel Johann and good Scathelock, with him all four to gone. This stands out because it is the earliest record of this character, and it does not name him as Scarlet, but by 2 other names. Also here, Little John is called Lytel Johann, which suggests Johann, later John of course, is a very large person who must stoop or bend low to be at the same height as others. The Old English word lytel actually refers to a tendency to stoop or crouch or to bend to make oneself appear smaller. In modern English, this is retained in belittle, which means to make someone or something seem small or uninteresting or insignificant, not to actually reduce it in size. In another early ballad, Will Scarlet's wife is beset upon by soldiers, and he goes to beg Robin send his men to her aid. This same story is rewritten to be about the wife of Allan a Dale in a later telling of the Robin Hood adventure. Another standout moment for Will Scarlet is in Robin Hood, His Death, wherein an ill Robin Hood is going to Church Lees for medical bloodletting, and is warned by Will Scarlet not to go alone, but to take 50 archers as bodyguards to protect him from enemies. You can guess how that works out. That title again is Robin Hood, His Death. "That I ready not," said Will Scarlet, "master by assent of me, without 100 of your best bowmen you take to go with ye." In Robin Hood and Guy of Gisborne from about 1475, Will Scarlet is only described as a prisoner of the sheriff, and Little John has to rescue him as a reason for Robin being left to fend for himself. In an Elizabethan play from about 1600, which retells a scene from another classic ballad, Robin Hood rescues the widow's 3 sons from the sheriff, playwright Anthony Munday introduced Will Scarlet and Will Scathelock as half-brothers, and it is unclear if this was ever a traditional view or something Munday invented. In a story from later in the 1600s, Robin Hood and the Prince of Aragon, the character Will Scathelock is with Robin Hood and Little John, who saved the city of London from the Prince of Aragon and his 2 pet giants. In that story, Will Scathelock is clearly meant to represent Will Gambrel, Robin Hood's young cousin or nephew, but in the early ballad, Robin Hood newly revived, young Gambrel is apparently named as Will Scarlet. "Oh no, no, no," quote Robin Hood then, "Little John it may not be so, for he is my own dear sister's son, and cousins I have no mo." And it says no mo, N-O space M-O, as in mo money, mo problems, and cousins I have no mo. "But he shall be a bold yeoman of mine, my chief man next to thee, and I Robin Hood, and thou Little John, and Scarlet he shall be." Will Scarlet's character is generally just that of a bland fighter who fights for and with Robin Hood and drinks with him when he wants to get drunk. In the Star Trek The Next Generation episode Cupid, Q transports the Enterprise crew to an artificial Sherwood forest to engage in famous scenes from Robin Hood lore, but rewritten to match the Star Trek characters. Worf, who is personified as Will Scarlet, announces angrily that he is not a merry man. And then, as Guy of Gisborne rides in to threaten the band, Worf Scarlet rushes and attacks him with a drawn sword, only to be thwarted by Robin Hood Picard, ordering a retreat into Sherwood Forest. Worf Scarlet later takes the lute away from Geordie LaForge as Alan Adale and smashes it against a tree, for which he immediately apologizes. The one part of the Will Scarlet story that really stands out from the rest, because of its being most unique and humorous in nature, comes from a ballad from the 1700s, Robin Hood's Delight, wherein Robin Hood has been poisoned and takes a balsam tonic as an antidote and upchucks projectilely into the faces of Little John and Will Scarlet. "No sooner in haste did Robin Hood taste the balsam he had ta'en, than he 'gan to spew, and up he threw the balsam all again. And Scarlet and John, who were looking on their master as he did lie, had their faces besmeared, both eyes and beards, therewith most piteous lie." And that is as interesting as Will Scarlet gets as an individual person. Basically, because young Gambrel was originally presented as one whose stockings like scarlet shone, just that his socks were similar in nature to the rich scarlet fabric, people decided he wore fancy pants, and later as scarlet came to mean a deep red color, that those fancy pants must be red, and so many Robin Hood stories will feature Will Scarlet as a dandy who is very fond of his nice, fine, expensive red clothes. There is a British court document that pardons a prisoner who had committed an unspecified felony from 1318, more than 100 years after the events of the Robin Hood legend are supposed to have transpired, naming as the pardoned Will Scarlet. But there is no record of this person's arrest or any other information about this person, so Will Scarlet may have been an alias to disguise a person who was secretly pardoned, perhaps through corruption for a bribe or favor. Then still it is possible that this person may really have been a pardoned felon named Will Scarlet, who became a minor folk hero, was woven into the Robin Hood lore by storytellers wanting to impress some London audience by including their champion in the story, and maybe it stuck. There is no way to know. If in truth Will Scarlet is young Gambrel, who is supposed to be Robin Hood's nephew or cousin, who is, according to the lore, the lost son of the Earl of Maxfield, then it should be easy to identify him, since there should certainly be historical records for the family of an earl. But there is no such position and no such title as the Earl of Maxfield. So you hit a dead end before you even get going down that route because the family he is supposed to be a member of does not exist. Perhaps the stories are only just stories, and storytellers of old thought the stories seemed glib without a third person, more serious-minded in the fray, with clever and jovial Robin Hood as the great archer, and large commanding Little John, Lytle Johann, subservient to Robin and loving the fight and dealing mighty blows with his quarterstaff. Maybe the name Will Scarlet just fits snugly between them, with his character being a balancing force for the narrative. A no-nonsense man of action, a swordsman of great skill, dressed finely in red, sometimes portrayed playing a lute, sometimes smashing one, ready to stand and fight and die if he must for his captain, Robin Hood. Well, the show's over. Yeah, that was it. Have fun. See you next time if you come back next time. If there is a next time, there might not be a next time, who knows. Have fun.
Let's see, another gentleman who has a name that I also considered